So, you're making a choice right now. A really like highly specific, concrete choice. You are choosing to hit play.
Right.
Like maybe you're driving home right now, or I don't know, maybe you're sitting at your desk, kind of avoiding a project. Or maybe you're just staring at the ceiling.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Exactly. But whatever it is, you made a conscious decision to be right here, in this exact moment, listening to this deep dive. You scrolled through a feed, you read a title that kind of caught your eye, your finger hovered over the screen, and you tapped play. You did that.
You did.
But, and this is what we're getting into today, I want you to consider a question that might actually, like, keep you awake tonight. Did you genuinely choose to do that? Or was that decision already, like, locked in, finalized by your biology before you were even consciously aware that you wanted to tap play?
Yeah, it is a deeply unsettling proposition
Fair.
because it strikes at the very core of our identity, really. I mean, we build our entire lives on this bedrock assumption that we are the captains of our own ship,
Right,
right?
like we're in charge.
Exactly. When we approach a fork in the road, we feel certain, like absolutely certain, that we are the ones evaluating the options, turning the wheel, and steering our own destiny.
Yeah.
And the sensation of being in charge is so pervasive, and it's so heavily reinforced by society that to even question it just feels
It
absurd.
totally feels absurd. It feels like questioning whether gravity exists while I'm just standing firmly on the ground. Like the feeling of free will is undeniable.
Oh, absolutely.
But the research we are looking at today for this deep dive, it fundamentally challenges that feeling, like tears it apart. So our mission today, we are going to dig deeply into the neuroscience of human decision making and, well, the philosophical fallout of what researchers are actually discovering.
And it's a big fallout.
Huge. We need to figure out if we are actually the authors of our own lives, writing the story day by day, or if we are just actors hitting our marks completely unaware that we are simply reading from a script.
Well, to even begin grappling with that, we have to separate the subjective feeling of choice from the physical, biological machinery that's operating inside our skulls.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Because, the feeling of control tells one story, but the actual measurable timeline of how a thought forms tells a completely different, honestly, almost sci-fi story.
Yeah, let's talk about that timeline, because this is where the science completely shattered my understanding of my own brain.
It does that.
It really does, because we generally assume the timeline of a decision goes something like this, right? Like, I evaluate what I want, I make a conscious choice, and then my brain sends an electrical signal down my spinal cord to my hand to take action.
That's standard sequence.
Right. But modern neuroscientists have found that the sequence is entirely backward, like completely flipped.
Hmm.
The biological signals that predict a choice appear well before the conscious mind even realizes a choice has been made.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is we are talking about a massive gap in processing time.
Mm.
Let's look at how researchers actually measure this, because the methodology is just fascinating. Imagine, imagine you are participating in a study.
Okay, I'm in the lab.
You're in the lab, and you are placed inside a functional MRI scanner, which tracks blood flow in your brain. And the researchers give you a very simple task. They say, press a button with your left hand or press a button with your right hand.
Left or right, pretty simple.
Very simple. And you can do it whenever you feel like it. The only requirement is that you note the exact second you feel the conscious urge to move.
So they are tracking the moment of conscious intent versus the physical action.
That is the goal, yeah. But when researchers look at the data, they don't just see the brain light up when the person decides to move.
Right, that would make too much sense.
Right. Instead, they see activity in the frontal polar cortex, that's the brain area responsible for, like high-level planning lighting up with a specific pattern. And that pattern dictates whether the person will choose left or right. And here's the kicker. That predictive pattern forms up to 7 to 10 seconds before the person reports feeling the conscious urge to move.
10 seconds.
Up to 10 seconds, yes.
In the realm of brain processing, where, neurons fire in milliseconds, a 10-second delay is an absolute eternity.
It really is an eternity.
It implies that the non-conscious parts of my brain are already buzzing, calculating, and preparing for an action long before like the conscious me, ever registers the intent. The physical brain has already committed to a path. It's like it has drawn the map and started the engine. And only after all of that physiological heavy lifting is done does the conscious mind get handed the memo.
And think about what that implies about the role of consciousness itself, right?
It's terrifying.
If the physical brain is making the decision in the dark, and the conscious mind is only informed about it after the fact, then our conscious self isn't the CEO of the operation. It's not sitting at the head of the boardroom table making executive decisions. It is, at best, an observer. Or perhaps like an intern of the public relations department.
Oh my gosh, the PR department of the brain. I love that metaphor, but I also kind of hate the implications.
It's unsettling.
It's like walking into a restaurant you've never visited before, right?
Yeah.
Sit down, you look over the menu, you hem and haw over like the pasta versus the steak.
Right, a classic dilemma.
And finally, you confidently tell the waiter, I will have the steak. But what you don't know is that 20 minutes before you even...
The brain does something automatically, and consciousness instantly generates a narrative to make it feel deliberate.
It's just spinning the story.
Exactly. But that raises a massive secondary issue. If we connect this to the bigger picture, if your conscious mind is just writing press releases for decisions your biology has already made, what exactly is your biology basing those decisions on?
Right, like, if I am not the one steering the ship, who or what is programming the autopilot?
Well, this brings us to the raw data, the inescapable reality of our inputs.
Okay.
If the non-conscious brain is making these calls, it isn't pulling them out of thin air. It is running a calculation based on an astronomical amount of pre-existing data.
Well, the background stuff.
Yeah. Every single choice you make is the direct result of a continuous, unbroken chain of cause and effect. Your brain looks at your genetic predispositions, the wiring formed by your childhood environment, your deeply ingrained habits, your hormonal levels in that exact moment.
Wow, even hormones.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
And the memories you hold, both the conscious ones and the implicit hidden ones.
So it's basically a massive infinite chain reaction.
Imagine an infinitely long line of dominoes stretching back to the moment you were born. And even before that, into your genetic ancestry.
It's so big to think about.
It is. Every experience you've ever had, every meal you've eaten, every conversation, every trauma, every biological trait is a domino.
Right.
So when you are faced with a choice today, the brain isn't consulting some ethereal, independent free will. It is simply calculating the inevitable result of all those dominoes falling, bound by the laws of physics and biology.
Okay, I need to push back on this a little bit.
Please do.
Because while I buy that an impulse to press a button in a lab might be automatic, real-life decisions are wildly complex.
They are.
Let's make this highly specific. Say it's a Friday night, I have an invitation to a big, loud party, but I decide, you know what, I'm going to stay in, put on some sweatpants, and read a book.
Sounds like a nice night.
Right. But that doesn't feel like a reflex. I evaluated my options. I thought about how tired I am from the week. I deliberated. I am exercising my autonomy.
Right. It feels like an active process.
Right, exactly. Are you telling me that's not me being a self-aware introvert making a conscious lifestyle choice? That it's just the mathematical result of my cellular makeup reacting to the moment?
Well, your decision to stay in and read certainly feels like autonomy. It feels like a triumph of self-knowledge. But let's peel back the layers of that deliberation.
Okay, peel them back.
Why do you prefer reading to loud parties? Did you actively choose to be an introvert?
Well,
Did you design the cellular structure of your nervous system that gets easily overwhelmed by chaotic noise? Did you consciously select the specific childhood experiences that made quiet solitude feel safe and comforting to you?
no. I mean, I didn't pick my nervous system out of a catalog. I just have it.
Right.
And I suppose I didn't choose to find reading pleasurable. My brain just happens to release dopamine when I read a good story.
And that is the crux of the issue right there.
Sure.
You didn't choose your preferences, you just experienced them.
I just experience them. Wow.
Yeah. If your preferences dictate your desires and your desires dictate your actions, where does free will actually exist in that sequence? Every link in the chain was forged by something outside of your conscious control.
Okay, but what about long-term planning? Like, okay, I didn't choose to like reading, but what if I choose to go to law school?
Okay, law school.
That takes months of planning. I make spreadsheets, I talk to mentors, I save money. A spreadsheet isn't an automatic reflex.
Right.
That is me stepping in and overriding my short-term biology to secure a long-term goal. Surely that's free will.
The time scale is different, but the fundamental mechanics are identical. A spreadsheet is just an external tool your brain is using to process a higher volume of variables.
Wait, really?
Yes. Why are you choosing law school?
Hmm.
Maybe you value financial security over artistic freedom. Why do you value financial security? Perhaps you grew up in a household where money was tight and your brain wired itself to view financial stability as survival. The deliberation process, the spreadsheet, the conversations with mentors is just your brain running a complex simulation. It's weighing the strength of your conditioning against your immediate desires. You are a character playing out a role, and your backstory has already dictated what you will value in this scene.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me. Because if I'm just a character and my brain is simply a biological calculator executing a program written by my past, why does life feel so incredibly difficult?
I mean,
Like, if everything is just a chain of cause and effect, if my brain is just doing the math and dropping the dominoes, why the agonizing internal conflict?
oh, yes.
We have all been there. You are staring at a career change or a relationship decision or even just what to eat for lunch, and you are totally paralyzed. Part of you is screaming yes, another part is screaming no.
It's exhausting.
You lose sleep over it. If I am truly just a biological machine gliding along a predetermined track, why does making decisions require so much emotional sweat? Why doesn't the brain just quietly do the math in the background and move my body without me having to agonize over the pros and cons?
That is the paradox of conflict, and it's a vital piece of this puzzle. The brain deliberately creates a user interface for you to experience reality. And part of that interface is the illusion of control.
Right.
But when you feel torn between two choices, when the angel is on one shoulder and the devil is on the other, that struggle is actually the ultimate proof that you are not a unified, singular entity in control.
Wait, so my internal conflict is just the conscious mind watching different parts of my brain fight it out.
Exactly. Let's use your lunch example.
Right.
You are staring at a menu, torn between eating a salad and eating a highly processed sugary donut.
Which happens more often than I care to admit.
Right. But there is no independent you floating above the brain making a pure, uninfluenced choice. What is actually happening is a war between competing neural networks.
A literal war in my head.
Yes. On one side, you have your evolutionary drive for high-calorie dense energy. This is an ancient biological program designed to keep you alive during a famine.
The donut side.
The donut side. On the other side, you have your socially conditioned desire for long-term health, perhaps driven by a recent visit to the doctor or, societal pressures about appearance.
So it's basically my biology versus my conditioning.
Exactly. Two distinct, incredibly powerful programs are running simultaneously, violently clashing against each other in your prefrontal cortex.
And I'm just caught in the crossfire.
You are. Whichever program has the stronger neural pathways, or whichever one is amplified by your current blood sugar levels or stress hormones in that exact millisecond, is going to win. The feeling of being torn, the agonizing deliberation, is merely the sensory illusion draped over that invisible biological battle.
It's like watching an incredibly tense tug of war where both teams are blindfolded, but the rope itself thinks it's deciding which way to move.
That metaphor tracks perfectly. I love that. The rope feels the tension. It feels the intense pull from the left side and the aggressive yank from the right side, and it thinks, wow, I am really working hard to decide which direction I should go.
But the rope is just a rope.
Right. The rope is just the medium. It's just experiencing the forces acting upon it. The illusion of free will is so deeply baked into our consciousness that the tension itself feels like agency. If you were a completely free, unconditioned entity, you wouldn't struggle. You would just effortlessly choose.
Wow.
The very fact that you struggle proves the presence of competing programming.
So my agony over the donut is just my brain lagging while it finishes a complex math equation.
In a way, yes.
That is incredibly humbling. Honestly, it makes me feel a bit like a meat robot just playing out my programming.
A lot of people feel that way when they first encounter this material.
But surely there's a loophole here. There has to be a way out of the matrix. We aren't entirely without agency, are we? What about mindfulness?
Yes. Mindfulness is often pointed to as the escape hatch. It introduces the concept of awareness as a form of freedom.
Right. The space between stimulus and response. Like, the idea is that maybe free will isn't about having complete authoritative control over every random impulse that pops into your head.
Right, because you can't control those.
Exactly. You can't control the fact that you suddenly crave a donut or that you feel a flash of rage when someone cuts you off in traffic. That initial impulse is purely biological cause and effect.
Yes.
But true freedom is the ability to pause. It's the ability to observe your own thoughts from a distance and then choose not to act on them. Free will becomes free won't.
Free won't, yes.
So if I feel the urge to yell in traffic, my ability to notice the impulse, take a deep breath and say, no, I'm going to let this go. That is my agency. Doesn't that prove I'm more than just falling dominoes?
Well, this raises an important question. The awareness loophole feels incredibly comforting, doesn't it?
It really does.
It gives us back our steering wheel. It says the initial thought isn't yours, but the reaction entirely is. But if we apply the same rigorous logic to the pause that we applied to the impulse, the illusion starts to unravel again.
Wait, no, don't take the veto button away from me. I use that veto button every day.
I'm sorry, but let's follow the logic. You experience a biological impulse to yell in traffic. You pause. You reflect. You choose to take a deep breath and stay calm instead.
Right.
Why did you choose to take a deep breath?
Because I realized yelling wouldn't change the fact that the guy cut me off, and it would only spike my own blood pressure. Plus, I've been actively trying to be a less reactive person.
And why have you been trying to be less reactive?
Well, because my stress levels have been high, and I read a book on Stoicism last year that really resonated with me.
There is the domino.
Oh, no.
Yes. The act of pausing to reflect is in itself an action. And just like every other action, it is driven by prior causes. You didn't magically conjure the ability to pause out of an unconditioned void.
Right.
The pause was a direct result of your environment, your past experiences like reading that specific book, and your current neurochemistry, allowing for enough impulse control in that exact moment.
So if I hadn't slept well.
Exactly. If you hadn't read the book or if you had slept 2 hours less the night before, the veto button wouldn't have worked. The infinite loop of cause and effect swallows even our awareness. Even the choice to step back and observe was already decided by a prior input.
So what does this all mean? My brain is officially short-circuiting, so even my realization that I am conditioned is just part of the conditioning.
Yes.
Even me stepping back to observe my thoughts was caused by a prior input that trained my brain to value observation.
It is an inescapable, beautifully complex web.
Let me apply this to right now. Someone is listening to or watching this deep dive.
Right.
They're taking in this information about free will. That auditory input goes into their brain, physically alters their neural pathways, and might cause them to pause the next time they face a big decision.
It's highly likely.
And they might think, I am pausing, I am exercising my free will. But that pause wasn't free will at all. It was just the direct mathematical result of them hitting play on this deep dive 20 minutes ago.
You cannot step outside the chain of cause and effect because the part of you that is trying to step outside of it is made of cause and effect.
That is just wild.
It's a closed system.
Yeah.
But, realizing this doesn't have to be a dark, depressing descent into nihilism. In fact, many philosophers and neuroscientists argue that abandoning the illusion of free will can cultivate a profound, world-altering sense of empathy.
Empathy. How do you get empathy out of being a biological machine? I mean, it feels like it would just make me apathetic.
Think about how we judge others. If you truly internalize that your own choices, your successes, your discipline, and your failures are the result of an infinite chain of prior causes, your genetics, your lucky breaks, your neurochemistry, you have to extend that same grace to everyone else.
Oh, I see.
When someone makes a terrible mistake or acts in a way you find abrasive, you realize they're also acting out their own complex biological and environmental script.
So they aren't like purely autonomous villains who maliciously woke up and decided to be awful.
Exactly.
They're experiencing the inevitable result of their own lifetime of dominoes falling.
It completely dismantles arrogance. If you are highly successful, you can't claim pure, unadulterated credit for your work ethic. Your capacity for hard work was handed to you by your biology and your environment.
That really checks the ego.
It does. And conversely, it relieves crushing toxic guilt. You did the best you could with the programming and the resources your brain had in that exact moment. It fosters an incredible amount of compassion for the human condition. We are all just experiencing the ride.
That completely flips the script. It takes the pressure off. If I'm not the sole isolated author of my universe, then maybe I can just, watch the movie of my life unfold. I can experience the tension, the choices, and the outcomes, knowing my brain is doing the absolute best it can with the data it has.
And that leads to a final provocative thought to take with you. The next time you find yourself standing your ground, looking at a major life choice or even a petty argument, and you proudly declare, I chose this. This was my decision.
Yeah.
Take a step back. Look at the invisible forces, the decades of conditioning, and the hidden biology that brought you to that exact moment, and deeply ask yourself, did you really?
Did you really? I don't think I'll ever look at a restaurant menu or a spreadsheet or my own reactions the same way again.
It changes everything.
It really does. If today's deep dive made you question your own reality, if it made you look at your own hands and wonder what invisible forces are really pulling the strings, we want to hear from you. Make sure to like this video, comment below to tell us what you think. Do we actually have free will, or are we just watching the dominoes fall?
I'd love to hear those theories.
Drop your theories down there because I know this is going to spark some intense debates. And of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more mind-bending deep dives just like this. Until next time, keep questioning the world around you, and remember, sometimes the biggest illusion of all is control.